Today we're going to be making tiramisu. It's another no-bake dessert that's perfect to make ahead of time. I'm pretty sure most of you have probably had it by now. You need Italian ladyfingers, cocoa powder, sugar, egg yolks, heavy whipping cream, mascarpone cheese, Kahlua or brandy or marsala wine, and then vanilla extract, and then some espresso. If you don't have an espresso machine, you can just make your coffee a little bit stronger than usual, and then add a little bit of espresso powder, the dried instant espresso powder. The first step is to brew the espresso or coffee, if you're making it, and combine it with the alcohol and set it aside in a shallow container. This will be used for dipping the Italian ladyfinger cookies into. The second step is to beat the egg yolks with a 1/4 cup of white sugar. We're gonna beat these with the electric mixer until they become tripled in volume, they turn pale yellow, and leave a ribbon with the beaters when the beaters are lifted up. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. Okay, so I'm just gonna add the sugar, and I'm gonna start mixing. And I'm just going to keep on going. I think it will take about 5 minutes until the egg yolks become very pale, tripled in volume, and they hold a ribbon after being lifted. Okay, I've beaten the egg yolks until they've turned pale and tripled in volume. And I don't know how easily you can tell, but the beaters, the egg yolks kind of keep their shape as you move it around. And they're leaving a ribbon now. So that's what it looks like when they're ready. And now we can move on to the next step. The next step is to beat the heavy cream with some sugar to medium soft peaks. And once those are done, we're gonna mix in the mascarpone cheese, beat that until medium peaks, and then fold that into the egg yolk mixture. I added a teaspoon of vanilla extract to the whipped cream just because I think it will taste better that way. Okay, here is the cream at soft peaks. This is what it looks like. And we're gonna beat in the mascarpone cheese now and beat it to medium peaks. So I'm going to add half the mascarpone in and then beat it, and then assess and add the other half. So I didn't want to totally deflate the heavy cream, so I'm only adding half at a time and beating it for a little bit, and then I'll add the rest. And then just a tip, when you want to make whipped cream, it's helpful to chill the bowl and the mixer, the beater blades. That helps you get a better result if you're trying to make whipped cream, especially if you want to beat it all the way to like a pipeable consistency. Okay, this is what the cream looks like after beating in the mascarpone. We went a little too far. This is probably firm peaks, not medium peaks. You want to stop at medium peaks. It'll just be easier to incorporate the egg yolks. So now we're going to fold this mixture gently into the egg yolks using the spatula. Now we're going to be folding in this mascarpone cream mixture into the beaten egg yolks. I'm just going to start with a little bit and then add the rest in as I go. When you fold, you want to go down the middle of the bowl and around the side. So this is like a gentler way of mixing. You use it when making things like souffles or tiramisu filling. I'm also turning the bowl a 1/4 turn every time I move my hand around the bowl. Okay, now I'm going to add some more of the mascarpone. So this lightening gradually is used in making souffles and making chocolate mousse. You don't want to add all of the like fluffy thing to the dense thing, or you'll deflate all the bubbles that you spent all that time whipping into your ingredients. So after this, we're gonna prep our pans. I doubled the recipe so that I can make 2 8x8s. The original recipe is 1 8x8. If you double it, you could either make a 9x13 or 2 8x8s or 2 round cake pans. The next step is to prep our pans. The instructions say to take a tablespoon of cocoa powder and use a sifter and sift it over the bottom of the pan. So this is an example of a sifter. This is kind of like an old-fashioned one where you turn the handle to sift. It turns that little metal bar. I'm just going to use this because we'll offer like more precision in these small pans. I wanted to talk a little bit about these cookies really quick. There are 2 versions of these ladyfinger cookies. One is crunchy and one is soft like a sponge cake. This is the crunchy cookie. I've never used the sponge cake ones, but just use what you can find. If you can't find these cookies, sometimes they're hard to find. You can use the sponge cake ones as well. In Italian, I can't remember how to say the name, but it starts with an S. This recipe doesn't have the name of the Italian cookies, but I'll find it and put it in the description of the video. Okay, so when you dip the cookies into the espresso mixture, be sure to work quickly because these cookies are very porous and they'll disintegrate if you leave them too long in the coffee mixture. And then if you don't want to use alcohol, you could use a little bit of vanilla extract or maybe even almond extract to flavor the coffee a little bit. I used Kahlua, which is coffee flavored rum with sugar, so it's up to you. Okay, so I'm going to dip this in really quickly and then place it into the pan that has the cocoa powder sifted all over it. I'm going to dip both sides and then put it round side up. So I'm trying to work quickly because these cookies get soft very easily and you don't want them to fall apart before you can get them in place. You're going to do rounded side up. And we're using a rectangle shaped pan because that will just fit the shape of the cookies better. They fit pretty much perfectly in here. And you want to do it in one layer. It's okay if there's little gaps between the cookies. You just don't want to overlap them if you can help it. And you can also break the cookies if they're not fitting in your pan. So if you have a more square pan, you might need to cut the cookies or break them into pieces around the edges to get them into the pan. So that fit pretty perfectly. We're lucky. And now we're going to add a layer of the mascarpone. So it's nice and thick and fluffy. And you just spread it out, and then we're going to dust it with some more cocoa and then repeat the cookie and mascarpone. You want to end with the creamy mixture, the mascarpone mixture on top. And we're going to dust that with cocoa. And then this sits in the fridge for at least 2 hours, but the longer the better. If you could let this sit overnight or even up to 24 hours, it will just taste better the longer it gets to sit. And if you eat it too soon, the texture might still be a little bit crunchy from the cookies. So this is like a perfect make-ahead dessert. You can make it before people come over and have it ready, just chilling in the fridge. And add a little bit more. And then we'll repeat the layering. Okay, so we're just going to dust the top. This is only the first layer. There's going to be another layer. Dust this with cocoa. And then we're going to do another layer of cookies, another layer of the mascarpone mixture, and then more cocoa on top. When you're spreading the filling, you want to be a little bit gentle because these cookies are getting soft by their dip in the espresso. So just be careful as you're spreading the cream so you don't break the cookies or lift any of the layers up as you go. If you guys feel like you mess up and like the cookies start showing through or anything like that, just remember when you do that top layer of cocoa, it's basically going to cover any mistakes up. So you don't need to worry too much. Just try to get an even layer of the mascarpone mixture, and then when you dust it with cocoa, no one will ever know. And then there was one thing I wanted to mention. I used raw egg yolks in the filling, and if that's a problem for you, if you don't like raw egg yolks or you don't want to use them, you can heat up the egg yolk and sugar mixture over a water bath, and then heat it up to between 154 and 158 degrees Fahrenheit while you're whisking it over the heat of the water bath, and that will kill any pathogens that might be in the eggs. I just made sure to use really fresh eggs. I just got these from the store yesterday, so I know they're fresh and they were from a good source, so I'm not too worried. But if you are immunocompromised and you don't want to eat raw eggs or risk salmonella, then heat it up or buy the pasteurized egg products, the egg yolk, and you can use that in the recipe. Okay, so we had some extra cookies, so we decided to do half the pan with an extra layer of cookie on top and then cocoa. And we're going to see which way we like it better. Feel free to do whatever you want with the extra cookies if you have any. If you have extra cookies and filling, you can make some mini tiramisus if you want. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. So after you do all the layering, you cover it and then put it in the fridge for at least 4 hours. Earlier I said 2 hours. You want to let it sit at least 4 hours. And if you could let it sit a whole 24 hours, that'd be even better. The longer you let it sit, the better the tiramisu is going to taste and the better texture it's going to be. Here's the finished piece of tiramisu. You can see the layers. You can see that the cookies didn't get totally soaked through with the coffee. Here's the pan. It's looking great. We're getting ready to eat dessert, so I hope you make some and enjoy your tiramisu.